Imagine for a moment, it's 2008 and a little movie called Iron Man hits theaters. You're standing in line, popcorn in hand, completely unaware that what you're about to witness will spark one of the most significant shifts in cinema's history. A movie that no one, not even those who were most optimistic, me included, could have predicted that would lay a foundation of a cultural juggernaut. A movie that didn't just set the stage for its own sequel, but also redefined what a blockbuster could be. This was the beginning of something big, and you had no idea at the time. Now, fast forward to 2012. You're back in line. This time it's for the Avengers. The hype is unreal. This isn't just a movie, it's a global event. The culmination of years of build-up, and thinking that this amount of superheroes sharing the screen at the same time, well, it was impossible. It was unprecedented. It truly felt like the peak of cinematic achievement. It couldn't get any better than that. Now, jump ahead one more time to 2019, Avengers Endgame. The grand finale. A decade of storytelling, meticulously woven together, reaching climax that left audiences cheering, crying, and feeling like they witnessed history in the making. It wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural moment, the end of an era, and hopefully the beginning of a new one, right? But now it's 2025. New MCU movies are about to drop, and yet you sit there watching trailers and videos. You can't help but feel empty. The excitement's gone, replaced by a creeping sense of dread. Was it always like this? What changed? When did it all start to go wrong? Was the MCU really that good? In this series of videos, we're going to revisit the MCU movies phase by phase, and we're going to figure out whether the MCU was a groundbreaking cinematic achievement in its lead up to Endgame, or if it was just a mediocre franchise that was held up by fanfare and a cool premise. And if it's the latter, well, which movies actually hold up? And which ones were, well, kinda stinky? I will also try and pinpoint the exact moment the MCU lost its way. Was it a lack of direction, the relentless release of content, the departure of the core characters, or was it simply not having the sauce? There's a lot to unpack here, so, let's go back to 2008 and let's watch Iron Man. Before we begin, I just want to give a huge disclaimer that I do actually remember liking most of these movies, and I am a fan of the MCU. But I'm really wondering because I watched the new Captain America trailer, I watched the Fantastic Four trailer, and those movies don't look fun. So yeah, that's the idea that sparked this video, and hopefully I'm wrong. But without further ado, let's start where it all began. 2008, Phase 1, and of course, the movie that started it all, Iron Man. Iron Man is, well, it's actually pretty good. I mean, go figure. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be talking about this to begin with. This movie introduces Tony Stark, who is kind of a jerk, if I'm being honest. I've never been a fan of Tony as a character. I don't think he's a likable character at all. But honestly, this movie sets up a neat little arc for him to go through. He goes from being a jerk with principles to, well, being a little bit less of a jerk with principles. I mean, it's a pretty basic story, but it's an effective one. However, and I didn't realize this until just now while scripting, it's that Tony is only against selling weapons to people who are not from the US Army. If Obadiah hadn't sold weapons to terrorists, he would be okay with the warmongering and stuff. And on top of all that, we aren't really shown a solution to that plot point in this movie. Like, is Stark Industries still making weapons, but just to the US government? Like, doesn't that mean that Tony didn't really learn anything? I mean, whatever, it's just a dumb superhero movie, I guess. The movie is really well paced, at least until the third arc. Let me explain. They set up this whole thing up with the 10 rings and set up a real good character motivation for Tony to actually want to do good. And the whole thing could have been about Tony learning what his company has done and how he handles it while striking different sides of the 10 rings. However, that's not really the case. We honestly got a bait and switch, and instead we got Jeff Bridges as the bad guy. And don't get me wrong, his character is properly built throughout the whole story, and he has a good motivation, but we didn't really need him to be a giant robot for a CGI fight in the street in the middle of the night. Now, the CGI in Tony's suits looks really good, and it holds up to this day. The Ironmonger, however, not so much, and that's honestly the problem. The movie is really charming throughout two-thirds of it, but the last third feels really out of place. It's like the producers said, no, it's a superhero movie. We need one big bad guy for the hero to fight against. And honestly, I would have been extremely happy if this movie was just Tony facing the real world and the consequences of being a weapons developer and actively trying to fix that mistake. But the fact that I didn't really get that does not take away from how good of a movie this is, and it's a certainly strong start to what the MCU would be. Plus, that scene is pretty cool.
I am Iron
Man. Let's be real. The Incredible Hulk is the most forgettable Marvel movie. I mean, even I forgot that it was a part of this thing. I had to Google it, and apparently it's canon. This movie tries to be the serious, gritty take on the Hulk, but honestly, it's just boring. The pacing is all over the place, starting with a rushed montage that doesn't let you care about Bruce Banner or his origin. Edward Norton in the role is fine, but this Bruce is just kind of just there. He's just hanging out. I honestly cannot tell you any character trait that Bruce has other than, well, he is a scientist and he is a resilient man. Not exactly what you would call a compelling main character, to be honest. He's like a blank sheet of paper. In relation to the action, for a movie about a giant green rage monster, there's simply not enough Hulk. And I guess there's a reason for it, because when he does show up, the CGI looks like a bad PS2 game. The final fight with Abomination is just two CGI monsters smashing things, no stake, no tension, and Tim Roth's villain starts very interesting, but it turns into a generic, personality-free monster. Wait, isn't this final fight basically and conceptually the same thing as the main villain in the last movie? Big CGI guy, in a CGI fight, in a city at night? Huh. Interesting. Anyways, as I mentioned before, the CGI and lighting are probably the worst parts of the movie. The Hulk looked like he's made of plastic, and the dark lighting doesn't really help his scenes. Half the time you can barely see what's happening in the action scenes, especially at night. And it's like they thought, well, if we make it dark enough, maybe no one will notice how bad the effects are. And yeah, we noticed. And on top of that, the outdoors day shots honestly look like a bad lit TV show. But hey, at least the soundtrack is really good. Craig Armstrong's score is moody, intense, and it's probably the best part of this movie. It's too bad that the visuals don't live up to the music. The only scene that actually made me feel something was honestly the final shot with Tony showing up. Albeit it doesn't hit today, if you were in the cinema as this happened, yeah, I can imagine how that felt in the first time watching. So yeah, The Incredible Hulk is just meh. It's not awful, but it's not good either. It's the Marvel movie that you watch once and simply forget about, or, you can simply skip it. Iron Man 2 is what happens when a sequel tries to do way too much, and it ends up doing nothing well. The plot is a mess. Tony's dying from poisoning, there's a Senate hearing, Whiplash wants revenge, Nick Fury shows up to tease the Avengers, and it's like they threw a bunch of ideas at the wall and actually forgot to see what actually stuck to the wall. There are literally no character arcs. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. does a really good job as Tony, as per usual, but his whole, hey, I'm dying storyline goes really nowhere. It's a character arc that actually feels repetitive from the last movie, because he already faced his mortality and the impact of weapon manufacturing has on the world, and then he just magically fixes it with a new element? Come on, man. Pepper and Tony's relationship feels pretty forced, but hey, at least it's better than the sexual harassment from the first movie. And Natasha Romanoff is just there to have a cool hallway fight. But let's face it, the choreography is actually really bad. And wait, you're in this movie? Don't even get me started on Whiplash. Mickey Rourke tries, but his character is so underdeveloped that he might as well be a simply one-off cartoon villain. Oh, he kind of is. And Justin Hammer is just a really bad character with little to no substance whatsoever. He's just an annoying guy. Some of the CGI still holds up to this day, but not that much really. I mean, the suit-up scenes are always cool looking, but the final fight is kind of a disaster. It's so dark and chaotic, and you can barely tell what's happening. And the faceless army of drones that Tony fights are laughably generic. I honestly hope this doesn't become a trend. The whole movie feels like it was rushed through production with no time to polish the effects or tighten the script. And this only makes the movie feel mid. It's like, why would I care about this movie if it felt like the studio didn't really care about this movie? So yeah, Iron Man 2 is just the classic case of sequelitis. It's bigger, it's louder, and it's way worse than the original. It's not the worst Marvel movie, but for the first sequel in this franchise, it is definitely wasted potential. Alright, let's be real. Thor isn't the worst Marvel movie, but it is a mess. The biggest issue with this movie is that it can't really decide whether it wants to be a serious Shakespearean drama or a goofy comedy. It tries to do both, and it ends failing at both. Asgard looks like a really cheap fantasy theme park. Everything is way too shiny and artificial. And those winged helmets? Come on, man. It's hard to take anything seriously when it looks like that. And the worst part is that they actually try so hard to be serious in the Asgard sections, and it just doesn't hit. The dialogue doesn't help either. Half the lines are these over-the-top cheesy speeches that sound like they're from a bad fantasy teen novel. And the other half of the lines are these awkward jokes that just don't land.
This drink, I like it. Another!
That's supposed to be funny, but it's just kind of cringy. Then there's all the Earth stuff. And honestly, Natalie Portman's character Jane is basically empty. She's just there to stare at Thor and fall in love with him. And Darcy being the comic relief, quote unquote, if you can even call her that, she's honestly extremely annoying. Every time she's on screen, I roll my eyes and think, why are you even here? What's your purpose in this movie? The human side of the story feels honestly like filler. And it most certainly is. Like, they didn't know what to do with Thor when he was stuck on Earth. Oh, and this guy? Yeah, that's supposed to be Hawkeye's introduction to the MCU. Not great if you ask me. And Loki, don't get me wrong. Tom Hiddleston is a great actor. He did an amazing job with Loki down the line, but his character's whole, hey, I'm evil now for this movie, happens way too fast. They could have honestly built him up for the next movie instead of blowing their load right away. I mean, one minute he's just Thor's little petty brother, and the next he's just a full-on villain? Feels like they said, okay, yeah, well, the comic book people know that Loki's a bad guy, so we gotta do it right now or they won't really get it. Doesn't really feel earned at all. But the thing that I hate the most about this movie is the over-usage of Dutch angles. I hate this crooked, tilted shit. Dutch angles are supposed to convey discomfort and etherealness, like a sense of unreality. But in this movie, they show up in every other shot, and it's honestly too much. It is so annoying, especially because they serve no purpose whatsoever. When you do something too much, it loses its meaning, man. The action as well as the cinematography are really fucking boring. For a movie about the God of Thunder, they really made the action scenes either too short or just kind of forgettable. The final battle with Loki ends with Thor just getting his hammer back out of nowhere, and it's like, was that it? So yeah, like, honestly, Thor is a mixed bag. It's not terrible, but it's not good either. It's just there. And for a character conceptually as cool as Thor, that is honestly quite the letdown. 4 down and 2 to go, and honestly, so far we only got one good movie. This is not painting well for the whole concept of this video. I really hope Cap can pull it off. Finally, a good movie. Honestly, I really like this one. Not just because I'm a huge Captain America fan, but because the movie itself is just really well paced, and Steve's character arc is amazingly built. But don't get me wrong, this movie still has some dumb shit in it. But let's start with the good. As I said, Steve Rogers is legit the best part of this movie. His character arc is perfect. And they really sell on this scrawny, determined kid who just wants to do the right thing, and he's facing rejection and showing his resilience, and even after he becomes the actual super soldier, he stays true to who he is. His motivations are clear and honestly quite relatable. He's not fighting for glory or power. He's just fighting because he doesn't like bullies. And Chris Evans honestly nails the role. The first 2/3 of the movie are really solid. My only little note here is that when he's, pre-serum, it's a little bit uncanny to see, but I cannot think of any other way that they could have accomplished this. Honestly, I would have really loved it if this movie was just about Steve and his team taking down camps and helping the Allies slowly win the war. There was honestly no need for the Red Skull stuff. And while yes, the whole montage of Cap taking down Hydra bases is really fun, and it honestly sells Steve as a real hero, this could have been the meat of the story instead of, just the montage. I would honestly say that the weakest part of the movie is the Hydra Red Skull bullshit. He's nothing but an over-the-top cartoon villain who is evil for the sake of being evil with speeches and all. We are honestly not shown or told an actual reason as to why this guy is a bad guy, and why does he want to take over the world. I honestly do not know. His showdown with Steve also feels rushed and underwhelming at the end of the movie. It's a confrontation that ends quite the lame way, if you ask me. The Red Skull gets zapped into space and we never hear from it again, and Cap crashes the plane, albeit his way into the ice, and that conversation with Peggy was quite heartfelt though. The first 2/3 of the movie are really good. The period setting, the camaraderie with the Howling Commandos, Peggy Carter, Stark, it all works. But the final act is like, it feels as if it was from a different, much worse movie. It's like there's a trend with these Marvel movies, honestly. They start really strong and then they fall flat at the end. And sadly, Captain America is no exception. So yeah, it's honestly a good movie. Steve Rogers is a perfectly built character, and that last shot, oh boy does it give me chills every time.
I had a date.
The Avengers is an iconic landmark movie. There is honestly no doubt about it. They managed to bring together Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye for a first time, and honestly, it was a huge deal. And the movie itself works. The secret for this movie is honestly the character dynamics, and it's what makes the movie memorable. Like, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers are the main guys, constantly clashing over ego and ideology, makes it feel authentic, and it honestly sets up their enemies to lovers story arc. Tony's snarky one-liners and Steve's old-school stubbornness are actually a great contrast. Their argument scenes ooze charisma and are some of the best part in the movie. On the other hand, it is very refreshing to see Bruce Banner treated as more than just the Hulk. Speaking of Hulk, Mark Ruffalo's take on the character is honestly a big improvement from what we got last time. His quiet intensity and dry humor add a certain uneasiness, as if he was a time bomb about to go off. And his moments of rage are actually pure crowd pleasers. Sadly, there is still some dumb shit to complain about. For example, not everyone gets the spotlight. After a very lackluster introduction to the MCU, Hawkeye spends most of the movie brainwashed. And by the time he's back on the team, there's honestly not much for him to do, except for shooting arrows atop of the roof. Black Widow gets a little bit more screen time, but a lot of it is spent reacting to other characters. Her backstory with Hawkeye is actually intriguing, but this movie does not explore it. Her role often feels more like a setup for future stuff than actually having an arc or a role in the movie. Thor is also a little bit of a mixed bag. He's mostly there to deal with Loki, and while yes, his conflict has some weight, it doesn't really feel as personal as it did in the last movie. Loki, meanwhile, is actually a fun villain, although his motivations are very weak at best. He wants to rule Earth because, well, he's jealous of Thor? What? Is honestly not compelling at all, even if Tom Hiddleston chooses the scenery with his talent. The action, especially the Battle of New York, right, is where the movie really shines. The team finally coming together, the iconic 360 shot, Hulk smashing Loki. It's all fun. But the plot leading up to it is super thin. The Chitauri are honestly boring, generic one-off villains, and the Tesseract feels like a lazy MacGuffin to drive the story. This movie is honestly great, as long as you turn off your brain and enjoy the action. But regardless of the drag of the first half, it's still a fun watch. Despite all of it, my biggest issue with the movie is that the quippy humor honestly falls flat after multiple watches. I'm personally not a fan of Joss Whedon's writing. And is it just me, or does the lighting look like a cheap TV movie? Honestly, The Avengers is a bit of a mixed bag, but it leans on the positive side. The character interactions are gold, and the action is top notch. The plot, however, and some of the character arcs feel very undercooked. It is not perfect, but it is a lot of fun, and it sets the stage for everything that came after. It is also very important to mention that, well, it was a great event, and that's the thing. All of these movies are actually great events. However, looking back on it, most of them suffer from the same disease, the same curse. The third act falls really flat, and that is very important to mention, very interesting actually. So far from phase 1, the MCU is actually quite the mixed bag. So I'm really looking forward to checking out phase 2 and figuring out where did it all go wrong. Was it actually good? Because so far, the MCU is pretty mid. So yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video and that you wait for the second part, because I love making this shit. It has been really fun to edit this. So if you want to support me, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment. What do you think about this take? Did you like the video? Did you not? Let me know. I'm all ears. Join my Discord and all that good stuff. Alright? Thank you guys so much for watching once more, and I will see you on part 2. Bye.